Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I laid out my June month. Can you believe that it's already June? Honestly, 2019 has just flown by and we are on the 6th month of this year. So two things that I had in mind when I was planning for deciding what my theme was to be is that one, I wanted to avoid watercolors and just colors in general because that was my layout from last month. And two, as I mentioned, because it is so close to the middle of this year, I really wanted something to keep me on track and kind of inspire me and be bold to just make sure that the rest of the year goes well. And so this month I decided to go with a starry galaxy theme with inspirational quotes and having it bold. And so without further ado, if you are excited as I am about this theme, then keep on watching. Before I begin, I've had a lot of different inspiration for this particular month layout, but a special shout out to Aura Arts on Instagram because her artwork is amazing and really kind of inspired me to be inspired for this month. So definitely check her out after you watch this video. I usually sketch my layout before I go over them, and this month was no exception. I actually had to go and spend more time planning for it because I'm mixing fonts and typography and layout. My first page is my Hello June. I start by going over the outlines of my sketch and some of the bigger stars in the layout. I then go and color in the hello and the bolded outline of the word June. You see in this, I avoid the stars and the little circles I drew in. I found that it was pretty tedious to try and avoid all of the little stars. So on the other pages, I usually just avoid the big stars and leave that unfilled because as you can see, I will be drawing in the stars with a white gel pen. From time to time, you'll see my eraser appear. I don't just use it to erase, I actually use it to rest my hand on as I'm going in with the black pen to avoid smudging the ink and getting it all over my hand. You can easily use a piece of paper or wax or tracing to do the job. I like the eraser because it's also around the same height as my notebook, so I can rest on it as I'm coloring the edges of the page with better ease. I color in the stars around the words and create different sizes and shapes and dots to give more depth to the look. This is a great tip for anyone who wants to do starry skies or galaxy paintings. Different size dots help create the universe look. I do the same with my white gel pen, focusing more in the middle of the black. The next is my monthly layout. I went for a more traditional calendar look for this month because one, I think it looks better for this layout, and two, I can easily see what I've planned for this month. I apologize for the lighting. I think my camera keeps picking up the reflection of my metal ruler and adjusts the focus accordingly. Plus the clip is sped up so it looks like it's flashing a bit. I write a big June in cursive writing that spreads behind the boxes, which will give it some extra contrast once I color things in. I also have 4 other boxes on the side with the words to do in capital letters with shadow attached to it. I decided I want the whole layout to have a black background, so I know not everyone likes to color in their whole journal, and it is a little time consuming, but I really like the look, so it's up to your discretion. Also, if you start with a black background or have a black bullet journal, then that would make your life a lot easier. A quick tip is the thing with coloring in with the black, it is easier to fix when you color in less, and then going in with a thinner pen to fix it versus coloring in too much, in my opinion. Of course, you can go over it with your white pen to clean the lines afterwards, but I find that the white of the pen doesn't match the paper, so maybe I'm just picky that way, but I think it looks better. I go in with the white pen and write the days of the week on top. I'm someone who prefers Monday to Sunday, so that's what I did. I decided I wanted my dates to be written in white as well, so I go in and color the black background. I line the 4 boxes with their own titles, to do, upcoming, which is where I fill any events that are not happening in June, my numbers on my social media, and notes, which I put in any notes that come up this month. This is a bit hard to see, but I'm adding dots to give further dimension to the shadow effect. I basically go ham on the stars with my white pen. I put them in more clusters this time, and I tried to fill the gaps between the boxes. My next layouts are my mood tracker and habit tracker. I'm starting off with my mood tracker here and wanted to do a banner to switch things up. I thought the easiest way to track my mood was to fill in the stars. I still try and make them a variety of sizes to keep the page interesting. And if you haven't noticed already, my stars are not perfect and are free-handed, which is totally okay. Create a little cloud bubble and use that as my tracker guide for my moods. I decided to keep this page relatively white, so the focus are on the stars, so I color in my color bubble and my header instead. The moods I decided to track this month is happy, content, meh, sad, and mad. Only after I wrote it in that I feel like I should have thought of something that was only 3 letters for all of the words. And of course you can't forget about the stars, so I go into the black and add the Milky Way galaxy, effect. I was pretty conflicted with how I wanted to track my mood this month using colors or textures. I ended up going with colors because I think it will look better overall once it's done. I used yellows and oranges for it. On the page next to it, I have my habit tracker. I did add a bit more self-care type habits this month, but overall it's still very simple. Since it does take up so little space, I decided to add a quote and represent the power of habits. This was a bit of a challenge design as well, as I'm not the greatest with lining up quotes with a mixture of typography, but overall I'm happy with it. I tried to mix different fonts with each other and even added not 1, but 2 banners. I highly recommend penciling in your design first so you can play around with the look that you like. I decided to contrast the quote to the habit tracker on the side with the black. I also wanted it this way because once the dots are covered by the black, it's really hard to line my lines, which makes habit tracking even harder. So this is just the easier way. Okay, I'm stalling on telling you what the quote is, but you can probably see it by now. The original quote is, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit." As you can see, I kind of screw up the quote, but I'm committing to it. I really should have written the quote down when I found it. I ended up reading it and just went off of it by memory, and clearly it sucks. I went in afterwards and fixed some of the mistakes I made. So the final quote reads, "We are what we repeatedly do. Success is not an action, but a habit." It works for me. Moving on, I go in the words to spruce them up a little bit and added some shadows and design elements. I decided to dot the edges where the black meets the paper as well to show a smoother transition. I also ended up adding black stars around it, but it's not filmed here. Last but not least, I add in the stars. It makes me really happy to go in and do it, and it's just so satisfying. Usually I end my month here, but as I mentioned in the beginning, I really want to make sure that this month I am refocusing and keeping track of all the things that I am doing, so I created an extra page that focuses on my goals. And not only that, but what I need to do to achieve those goals and actually schedule it in my time. I'm not sure how well this will go and whether or not it is useful, but I'm super optimistic. So let me know in the comments if you do something similar or have any suggestions. On my left page, I start off with sectioning off my goal area. This is where all the major things that I want to accomplish this month will be written here. My goals will be focused on my work mostly, and I went to a workshop that talked about how goals should make you feel uncomfortable, and out of 10, it should be greater than a 5 because otherwise it is just a task. So hopefully everything I write in here will follow those guidelines and be achieved. Underneath it is my area of focus. This is where I'm going to break down my goals into actionable tasks. On the right side, I have one of my favorite quotes, "It works when I work," just to keep me motivated. And underneath, I split June into 4 weeks. I know it's technically 5, but it's 4 full weeks filled with work days. And this is where I'm going to put my goals and tasks into my timeline. I will be referencing this section when I plan my weeklies, so I know exactly what I need to focus on. That's the explanation of why I have this page, and hopefully that makes sense. And now the design. I kept with a similar look but wanted things to be a bit more boxy so I can easily write into it. The word goals was just a little hard to fit in, and to make it more interesting, I wrote it sideways. The left page is left mostly white to contrast the right one, and I left the spaces for me to fill out my to-dos and goals. And then I just go in with my black and white pen and fill it with stars. A super important note is that when I start filling in the new design, I make sure that there's a piece of paper separating the design I just did underneath it. Because there is so much black ink, it is super easy to transfer onto the page when you write it on the next page. I hope that makes sense. If you find that your ink is non-transferable, then awesome, but for everyone else, even if you're not sure, put a piece of paper between the sheets. So that's it for my June layout. I hope you liked it. I have some super exciting things coming up this month, so make watching. If you end up recreating any of this month's layout themes, make sure to tag me on Instagram at handwrittendoodles. It'll make me super happy. And if you like this video, make sure to like it. If you love this video or want more content like this, make sure to sub it. So that's it for me today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!